Hey, best friend, sister, girlfriend, it's your girlfriend next door and friendship coach, Andrea. Hello, how is everyone? If you just heard something fall, I don't know what it is, but I am back for the second week of 2023. I am so happy. Look, you guys, we are calling this our consistency year. Look, we're only on number 2, but I'm so happy and so proud of myself. I know I'm not the only one who have made up in their mind they are ready to do something and they're jumping into the water. I feel like it's head first. I don't know if it's feet first or head first. It's one of the two. But anyway, you guys, last week, did you have a chance to go over and think about any of the topics we spoke about last week? We talked about the main 3 areas, and I added an extra of friendship, right? We understood what our utility friends were. We talked about our kinship friends. We talked about our friends of pleasure and our friends of virtue. And I hope you guys were able to understand where your friend groups lie, right? And just to go and surmise some of that, we understood that our friends of utility were our friends that we could rely on, and they would always be for us. So whenever we needed someone to, take a trip, not necessarily a trip of pleasure, but the girl who has the truck. Remember we talked about the girl who has the truck, and whenever you go to Home Goods, she's like, we going together because she had the truck and she gonna make sure we get our items home. That is our friend of utility. We have our friends that we can rely on for certain things, our friends of pleasure, of definitely our friends that those are our go-to friends that we have a good time. We tend to go on vacations with, our happy hour friends, right? And then we talked about our friends of virtue. We also spoke about, in many cases, if you are lucky enough to have one friend of virtue, you have been blessed in this lifetime. That is that one confidant, that person who feels like you could tell any and everything to, that person that feels like home, right? And then lastly, we had our level of kinship. Kinship is like family. Basically, you have adopted them as a cousin, so on and so forth. And you really are into like having them over whenever there are family functions, different things of that matter. And I always say to you guys, when you think about kinship, because I was having this discussion recently with a friend and trying to allow her to understand the different levels, and we'll get to that in a second. She said that she felt that her sister was it. And I'm not saying that your sister or your family members cannot be, but we're specifically talking about people that we are not connected to through DNA, right? When we talk about the friends, these are people that we choose to have in our life, right? We don't have to, because there are a lot of cases, people don't like their siblings all the time. And it's not that they don't like them, there's maybe a level of conflict for whatever reason. So when I explained to her, you can have friends that feel like siblings, and she said, well, I have one. I said, but this is something different. There are certain things that you're not going to tell your sister. Yes, I'm going to tell my sister everything. Girl, I know things that I'm sure that your sister don't know. Or I would assume you probably wouldn't want her to know. Hint that. So this week, you guys, we're going to further the conversation. And this week, we're going to talk about just how we select friends and the energies and things that we put out, right? So you understand that true friendships improve all aspects of our lives, right? They give us camaraderie, encouragement, confidence, and joy. All the qualities to improve our health, happiness, and well-being. Now, the thing that we need to really, really make sure that we are aware of is our energy, right? So when you are out there and you are open to meeting someone, this is when you have to be aware, right? Because friendships form because we are instinctively drawn to each other. Be mindful of what messages you send out. Because people are attracted to your magnetism. So we're not going to talk about this today, but you have heard of trauma bonds, right? If you haven't, we'll talk about them at some other point. But when you allow someone to come into your life, you have to realize the energy that you're putting out, that they're connecting to. So let's say if you're in a good mood and you're out shopping and you happen to see someone and you guys are interested in some of the same things, and you start talking to one another, and you're like, wow, you connected to this person because we found each other in Home Goods. We both were looking for sheets for our bed, and we had similar taste. I'm not always thinking you're going to find a friend in Home Goods, but I'm just trying to make an example of what it would be like, the energy that you're putting out. Right? You're in a positive place. You're feeling really good. So we also have to be careful when we're in a negative place, right? When things aren't seemingly going our way and we sometimes want to vent, or, we're not truly being ourselves. And when that happens, you have to remember, as that relationship develops and that relationship moves on, I want you to see there is a pattern that will begin to happen. The conversations, the topics of conversation that you guys initially have, and how they will continue to draw out. Now, I will give you an example of this. I'm a woman in my 40s, and many of my listeners are, and we talk about those things, don't we, girls? But as we know, when we are going through our 40s and we talk about this is an era of our lives where we have so many women going through a heck of a time. And we can list a few of them. Kids are going off to college. You're finding out you and your husband may not be getting along, and divorce comes up. Um, you find out maybe even the child that you raised is not even turning out to be the same type of child that you envisioned in your head. And there's a slight disappointment there. Let's just be real. Things happen, honey. We don't all have it together, okay? Now, as we transition through this time, you will begin to notice, for instance, here's a good example. I have a friend who was divorced, and that particular friend, was trying to really learn herself, really find her true identity. The kids are gone, the husband's gone. Now it's like, who am I? And through this discovery process, a lot of things occur, you guys. If you've been married 10, 20, 25 years, the dating pool is different. How people communicate is different. They text, they don't call. Like, all of these things are happening. So, and it's hard to get along with your friends, because at this point, you have friends that are still married. You have, your soccer mom friends. Like, so you're trying to figure out, where's my group of friends that's going through this. So she joins a friendship group. This is specifically for women who are looking to connect, and find friendship. And in this friendship group, she connects with someone. Both of them are in a very similar place, different ages, but similar place. They want a companion. They're looking for companionship. So this is their bond. They go out to dinner, they go to lounges, but the entire conversation is constantly surrounded about how and what are we going to do to find our mate. That is a very strong topic. It looks like on all platforms right now. And that's not my thing, but there's a lot of topics on that. But they were going through it, right? And just so happened, one particular night, you guys, they struck gold. They met friends. Excuse me while I sip. Oh, excuse me while I sip. They met some friends, guy friends that were together, and seemingly one guy liked her, the other guy liked her girlfriend. This was looking good, right? So time progresses on. Her girlfriend goes on a date. She goes on a date. Well, unfortunately, her guy is the she met is not in the same place as the guys her girlfriend met, right? So this particular situation, this girl is bonded and it's going fast. Like, it's looking like this man is going to propose in a matter of 6 months, less than a year. We're going to say less than a year. She's wanting the same exact thing. She's dating, but he's not. he's not giving her that same type of energy. So she still wants to go out and talk, hang out with her friend. But now the bond that they created was about them looking for a spouse, a mate, a partner. And now I potentially have one, her friend has one over here, and her energy is going into that because that was her goal. So now what happens to the friend? She is like devastated. She's like, well, wait a minute. I thought we had bonded. I thought we were girlfriends. I thought we were good girlfriends. But she wasn't clear, didn't understand that the bond that they had was about this one particular topic. And she has, it assumes, or it looks like, has reached her goal, right? So when things like this happen, you just honestly have to be aware of when you meet people. When you meet people, you have to be aware of what energy you're putting out and why you met them, right? And then also, if we'll cover this another time, but we meet people for seasons as well. Putting lotion on my hands, it's so dry. We meet people for seasons as well. So when you guys are out here, and I have a lot of my clients who come to me and they're telling me it's so hard, it's so hard, it's so hard to meet friends or women in your 40s because, it's like trying to penetrate these groups that have been together for so long. And you also have to remember in your 40s, women in their 40s, they have gone through some friendship breakups or felt like they've been betrayed or something didn't work out. So when you already know when that happens with another female, there's that caution of entering into new groups or entering into new relationships. And remember the song said, no new friends. People took that stuff to heart. When they said no new friends, that was a big thing, a big deal for a lot of people. But I think we have to change the scenario of that because no one wants to sit around and be lonely, not have someone to go hang out with. Like, you do want new friends. You do want to explore and have different opinions, and that's what we're not here to be alone. And more than anything, not to get off on a tangent, but I really wish that people would try to change this whole thing of independency, because we love independency, right? But the independency can also drift if you're not careful of being lonely. You can become so independent that you're by yourself because you can have the energy of I don't need anyone, when in fact we all need each other, right? So I just wanted you guys to concentrate on that. So go back and revisit how we talked about the different types of friends, and then what energy that we are actually putting out to receive someone in our lives, right? And let's revisit the topic of friends of virtue. This is the one that hurts the most. I hate to go there, but this is the one that hurts the most. Here's another example. I love to give examples. But in this one, I would say most recently, I'm gonna tell you something that happened to me that just this was like last weekend. I had a friend that I've been knowing for over 20 years. But time does not make good friendships. And I'm not saying she's not a good friend, but you could be friends with someone for 50 years and what? So in recent times, she's another one in the 40ish range, and she's going through her own thing in her life, and I've been trying to put in a lot more effort because of that to the relationship. So I called and I said, hey, let's hang out, let's have brunch on Sunday, brunch together. And we did. We had a good time and we were talking and things that girlfriends do. And then she mentioned to me that I was her best friend. So I had to pause for a minute. Now I'm very cautious about the title friendship in general, but for someone to say you are my best friend, I really, I have to really practice and understand what those words mean to that person. And that's what I asked her. I said, "Well, what does a best friend mean to you?" And she said, "Well, I feel like I've shared the majority of, my married life, my adult life, I've shared a lot of intimate things with you. So you know so much about me. And I said, oh, okay. And it's not that she's right. She shared things. I've shared things. I mean, we're girlfriends. But truthfully, my definition of what a best friend is different. For me, we all have our own definition. So she then turned to me and she said, well, what do you think? Well, what do you think a best friend is? And I said, well, for me, I think a best friend is someone that I've actually gone through some things with, because it's just like I explained to her, it's just like a marriage, right? We can go and through the courtship, we can find that we have things in common. We can project things in the future that we both want the same things. We can write everything down on paper. We can go down the aisle, sign the paper, sign the contract. But until you put action to any of those things, right? When you start to live amongst one another, when you're with each other and you're really going through the process of life together, and you start to hit those bumps in the road, those peaks, those valleys, and that person is still by your side, that's the type of bond that I would want to go through with the best friend. And I'm not saying it has to be negative things, but I haven't, I told her, I said, truthfully, because I only want to be honest, I said, if I was stranded at an airport, because we live in the same city, excuse me, if I was stranded at an airport, she would not be the first person that I would call, because I don't see her that way. And then she was like, why would you think that? I would definitely come and get you. And I'm not saying that she wouldn't. I'm sure if she was available, she would come and get me. I'm sure she would. But in my mind, I haven't placed her there. And I didn't even know that she had placed me there, right? And it's interesting because she was sharing with me, she had this same scenario happen to her, where she felt, another woman felt like she was pulling back and she wasn't being her best friend. I said, well, you have to flip the script a little bit and see how you are defining all these different things, because there is no best friend, not for me. um when I personally operate on kinship. Remember, we talked about kinship. If you are a really, really, really good friend to me, a friend of virtue, you are like family. We have gone through things together. We are loving each other. We are walking through this thing called life together. I have your back, you have mine. And like I said, we all have to define those things for ourselves, but taking the tools with us to make sure that we are distinct and clear about where those people will be in our lives. I'm not gonna hold you long this week, you guys, because I really wanted to get this up and running. Because I normally, I post at 4 o'clock in the morning. This today is it's after 4 o'clock now in the afternoon. So I want to make sure that I put this out to you guys, and I wanted to give you something to think about before I leave until we talk next week. But ask yourself, what type of energy, when I'm looking for someone in my life to enter my life, what type of energy am I putting out? Am I clear? Am I distinct on what I'm looking for to receive? Am I also giving that, right? To be clear in all those things. The same way we are, oh, my lip itching. The same way we are when we are looking for a partner, we have to be clear about those same things when we are looking for friendship, because friendship is so intimate, especially amongst women. So I love you guys. I look forward to seeing and speaking to you next week. If you would like to see this, I did record it this week for the YouTube channel. And thank you for joining your girlfriend next door and friendship coach. I love you. Bye, best friend, sister, girlfriend. Wait, where's our song? I want to play our song. It'll be on the recording. All right. I'll talk to you later.